Hey, welcome back to CBM Calling. It's Tuesday. It must be Tuesday. If you're here, it's 2:30 Eastern time, and it is just as gray this week as it was last week. But we are going to be undaunted here on CBM Calling because we're carrying on with Advent, and one of our writers is with us today for our Advent series. Today, we would have received in your email, if you signed up, the reflection that Louise has written on love as we are coming up to the fourth week of Advent. Louise, welcome to CBM Calling as a guest, not as a host.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Welcome to my home.
Well, that is a really great fake background. That's the best fake Zoom background I've seen yet. So you're telling me that's real, eh?
This is my living room. I won't show you the rest of my house.
You live in a Hallmark card.
It's just this corner that,
wow.
that looks good at the moment. I've got two kids, so they're Christmasing all over the rest of the house, and they have a different decorating style than I'm into. So,
how old are the kids? How old are your kids?
My girls are 4 and 8. So.
Oh man, that's the best. These are the best years with.
It is. It's pretty fun.
The little rugrats, absolutely. Mine are all coming back to the house. I'm anticipating this year at some point. But we'll see if we can make that happen at Christmas. They're not quite inside my bubble, the older ones. Oh. Hey, but let me show you a picture. Check this out. Just to give you a heads up. This is how fast the time's going on you, Louise. Because that rugrat is now in grade 12. And
unreal,
head off to university next year. Yeah, so I see you've got your ornaments on your tree behind you.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. I pulled that off of our tree. What do you got back there? You got kid things?
Oh, yeah, everything. It's very eclectic. When Helen was young, she's my oldest. When she was young, there was Pinterest, and that seemed like a thing that you should do as a new mom. So yeah, I tried to recreate some Pinterest, some footprints, in clay. And so there's some ornaments that some of them turned out okay. Claire has nothing. She's got a few bought ornaments. But as the second child, there was no dipping feet in paint to make anything when there's two of them. So, but yeah, lots of ornaments of the girls and lots of things they've made at preschool and daycare and stuff. So.
Yeah, wonderful. Those will be the things that make it onto their tree. That's what I figure at some point. These are heirlooms.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right. As we've had guests on, we're about Christmas and Advent. We're going to get to your reflection that, as I mentioned earlier, but we've been talking with the last few guests about music. So before you say, I'm going to out you.
Oh no.
Yeah, you just shared with me that Rick Astley has a Christmas album.
No, not an album. Just a song. Just one song.
That's probably all you need from Rick Astley.
Yeah, that's one song too many.
Wow, I wish you hadn't shared that with me. But you have other Christmas music. Come on, tell me about Christmas music in your house and in the past.
Sure. Well, Christmas, when you ask what's a favorite Christmas song, that's like asking, like what's your favorite kind of chips or your favorite chocolate? Like I like all of them. So even Rick Astley, I've been listening to it, even though I don't really like it, but if it's got the word Christmas or if it's got a bow on it, I'm sold. So all the Christmas music. So it's more for me like, what am I doing? Am I wrapping Christmas gifts? There's a soundtrack for that. Am I on the treadmill? There's a soundtrack for that. So am I driving around looking at Christmas lights? All of that. So, but I do confess, even in the summertime, I love James Taylor's Christmas album, and I've been known to listen to that actually on airplanes. It always puts me to sleep. So even in the summer. So that's a good one to check out, James Taylor's At Christmas.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, my family, both of my parents are from Cape Breton. So the Bear McNeils, a very well-known Cape Breton family group.
Sure.
They've got a Christmas album that it's pretty popular, and they do a Christmas show every year that we often attend. So yeah, eclectic. Everything from the Bear McNeils to Rick Astley. So, and everything in between.
There are some delicious flavors in there. There are some flavors that I would not ask to have seconds of.
Yes. The chocolate
or ice.
that has the cherry in it that you put back.
That's right.
Definitely.
That's right. I'm going to ask John to bring up a picture that is of your grandparents' house in Cape Breton that you shared with us. Now, I thought this was essentially just a stock photo. Like, again, you live in a Hallmark card, but that house is nuts.
Yeah, yeah, pretty incredible. I remember when I was about 4, visiting my friend's grandparents' home, and very normal. They lived in an apartment like most people's grandparents. And I remember walking into the apartment thinking, I wonder where their castle is. Because this is what I knew. This is my grandparents' house. And yeah, it's unbelievable. It is just beautiful. It's actually not their house anymore. They sold it 4 years ago, but until then it was in the family. It was my grandfather's grandfather who built it. And it's just it's incredible all of the time, but as you can imagine, at Christmas it is
no kidding,
over the top. It's
with the Barry McNeil's on in the background. No
yeah, absolutely. and food beyond, and Christmas trees, as you can see.
Yes,
beyond.
I think John's going to bring up. I do have a question, because this 14-foot tree in the living room of your grandparents' house has other trees attached to it.
Yes,
there's like smaller
yes.
trees here.
So this was a Christmas where my mom and her 2 sisters everybody was there. Our whole family was home. And so every family got a tree. So, we all got to decorate our own Christmas tree. And their tradition is that you decorate, well, actually, when my mom was young, the tradition was that Santa decorated the Christmas tree. So once the kids went to bed, you'd wake up in the morning and, you'd see this incredible tree with all of the gifts. We kind of took that. We told Santa, we didn't need him that year, and so we decided to decorate them, but we couldn't do it until Christmas Eve. So that's one of their traditions. But yeah, the house is over the top big, so it just demands that everything be over the top big. So we would do a I always want to call it a potluck, but it's not. It's a buffet, because my grandmother would do all the food. She would insist that nobody else was allowed to bring food, and so this would be my grandfather's siblings and their families. So there would be over 50 people on Christmas Day for supper. Just a huge buffet of, I can't even articulate how just special. Magical. And those are some special years. And I was a pastor for about 12 years. And so those Christmases, my family would go up earlier, but then I couldn't join until after the Christmas Eve service. So many years I rolled in at 11 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve just to be there. So really, really special spot.
You have been busy for a lot of years on Christmas Eve, and I know that's a time that, as a pastor, is ridiculously demanding. But John's going to share a couple of pictures, I think, of that you sent in. So is this a youth group that we're looking at here? The tree? Yeah.
So some of my most favorite Christmas memories, of course, center around activities at the church. And as a pastor, it was always beyond busy, but certainly I would say certainly my favorite season. And I was a youth pastor for many years, and so lots of good memories of huge events with my youth group. We did a progressive dinner party every year, which was just baffling to me. We would all pile into cars and vans and arrive at people's homes, these just beautiful people who would have spent all day cooking, whether it was the appetizer or the main course or the dessert. They'd cook all day for this and clean their home, and we would just bombard them. We'd destroy their entryway with shoes and coats and bags, and then ruin their kitchen and eat all of their food, and then leave and go to the next house and do it again and again and again. And I just felt so bad every year doing this, but they loved it, and they offered to do it year after year after year. So that was a really fun tradition. And I think the picture that John's got is of the last youth group that I worked with. We had a huge Christmas party at the church, and just some really good memories with my youth group. And I think John has a couple other pictures as well of my church this year. So I'm not a youth pastor anymore now that I work at CBM, but still a lot of my activity is centered around my local church. And I'm in just outside Halifax in Nova Scotia. And not only have we struggled through this global pandemic, but it's been a rough time for our province. There were just a number of tragedies that happened, especially late in the winter and into the spring. And so my church decided to do something that I think is really beautiful. We did an outdoor Christmas lighting. Of course, we couldn't gather indoors, but we were able to have some people come and gather outdoors, and the rest of it was streamed online. But we had representatives from the community come and light wreaths to just take a moment to remember and to grieve and to symbolize, just remembering how difficult this year has been and being able to mourn together. And so there was a police officer there. There was a chaplain. There were people representing the healthcare workers. Just a variety of people spoke, and we took some time to pray and just to be present and just to stand together in our grieving. And then we lit the Christmas tree and the rest of the lights at the church. And it's just beautiful. I'm just around the corner from my church. And so my girls and I love to walk by and look at it in the evenings. And it's just a really bright spot in our community.
Oh, how special. I want to ask you about something else that takes place outside in your parents' backyard. Is that what we're about? We're about to see pictures of. You guys are really serious about doing things outside.
Yeah.
So I think I can ask John to bring up the picture. I think is in your parents' backyard and the assembly of nativity scene. Is that what this is?
Yeah, so this is a tradition that started when I was young. My dad would make these nativity scenes, and he didn't paint them. He just ordered the kid, and we put them on wood and cut them out. And anyway, I always helped him as a kid put this together. And there were years where we couldn't find these prints to make into the nativity, but he found it this year. So this is a new set that he just put together a couple of weeks ago. And Helen got to help put it up, and I can see it from out my window. Actually, it's in their front yard across the street from where I live. And then last night Claire went over and played around in it, and it's a really fun tradition. And cars, we're on a sort of a main street in the subdivision, and cars will always pull over and stop and take time to look at it. So kind of a neat thing that it's fun to watch my kids now be involved in the things that I was.
Yeah, how special. Wow. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about your reflections. So as I mentioned, off the top, we've had multiple writers from CBM staff, and you are writer number 4, and they've all contributed a reflection and a piece of artwork and a prayer, as well as a little bit of a responsive reading. And we have that up on the screen here now. And you were writing about love. And I wanted to ask you about these images that you've actually associated with your reflection. I am a big fan of woodcuts and printmaking and the graphicness of this kind of artwork. And Christ of the Breadline, which is the image of Eisen. Get this guy's name. Is it Eisenberg? Is that his?
Yeah,
right.
Fritz Eichenberg. Yeah.
Eichenberg. Yeah. So these are tremendous. What draws you to these images and your reflection? Tell us a bit about that. How do they go together?
Yeah. Well, last Christmas actually, I was given a book of multiple images of Eichenberg's, and it's really special. It's he's so gifted, as you can see in just these 3 pieces of art. And you had asked for just one, but I thought these 3 they go together, I think, in a mysterious way. So the first is the Annunciation, and that was the text that I wrote this reflection based on. And I just think it's beautiful. I think there's just a peaceful obedience about Mary, just the way her face is turned upward. There's a simplicity about her and her environment there. I just love that. This peaceful obedience, though, I'm pretty sure came after she was terrified and after the angel said, "Don't be afraid." This is just certainly moments or maybe hours later. But I think it's really beautiful. The second image that just in the order of my reflection is the Christ of the Breadlines. And this is actually the piece of art that where I was first introduced to Eichenberg. I learned about this a long time ago, and it became, I don't even remember where I saw it, but it became a really important image for me in some of the work that I used to do. I used to work at a homeless shelter and an out of the cold shelter, and did some work with our homeless and street involved population here in Halifax. And this image always went with me in those moments where, you know, you're working a back shift at a shelter and you're exhausted. You know, this image would remind me that that as I serve these people, I'm serving Christ. And you know, or if you're, you know, picking up needles off the floor at the end of the cold shelter, I was able to just remember, as I serve these people, I am serving Christ. And I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful image. Actually, I wanted to read, there's a little, just a few lines here in the book. This is the book that this artwork is from. Dorothy Day writes this. She says, "The mystery of the poor is this, that they are Jesus, and what you do for them, you do for him. It is the only way we have of knowing and believing in our love. The mystery of poverty is that by sharing in it, making ourselves poor, in giving to others, we increase our knowledge of and belief in love." And so I just think it's a beautiful image. And then the last one there, it's just called Christmas. Yeah, I just love the intimacy in it. I love that Mary is, you know, snuggling Jesus. That's not often a way that we see Mary portrayed. Obviously, she's kneeling, and yeah, I'm having given birth myself twice. You're laying down. You're not kneeling after that event. So I just love that. Yeah, I love the intimacy in it. I think it's yeah, I think it just radiates love the way that that they're cuddled up there.
I didn't realize that you had worked with street involved youth. I did that as well. And one of my most profound Christmas memories, you just brought this all back to me right now. I have it written down in my journal, but a number of years ago, I was volunteering with a group downtown, and my kids had made cookies because they knew I was going down to see my friends, and there was a big Christmas dinner in the park, and there was gifts given out to our street involved youth. And there was a young couple, and they didn't show up. And I had a bunch of cookies. And in the course of the night, I found out that they weren't going to be able to attend. So another friend of mine and I went down, and we knew where they lived. Where they lived was underneath the Gardner here in Toronto. They were on an on-ramp. And we went down there after the Christmas party, and I was invited in to their little home. And I brought cookies, and we had cookies underneath the Gardner. And that's where I found out that she was pregnant. She could have been 16. They were just kids. The two of them living on the street with their dog underneath the highway. And there I am on essentially like a Christmas Eve in my own little nativity moment, which I just, like I say, I will never forget, but you just reminded me. And these pictures remind me of what you've talked about in your reflection, and that love for the poor, or our willingness to go to those places. You've been very generous in your reflection, even about the work of CBM and the things in the gift catalog, let's say, and the difference they can make in somebody's life. But that connection and making an investment, with the marginalized, being present. I mean, I really truly miss being either working in street ministry now in that closeness, or even this year, you and I have not been able to travel and be in those projects that CBM runs around the world, and be in those places firsthand. I mean, that's part of what you do for CBM, is our sent engagement and the ability to take people in these discipleship experiences to the field. So it's been a loss this year that you and I haven't been able to either take other people or get there ourselves. I guess you got there just at the beginning, just didn't you? Because I think I was away and you were away just before lockdown, right? This year.
Yeah. I got back on March the 10th, so we cut it pretty close.
Yeah, really close.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and it is such a gift. I mean, that experience you share, Gordon, is, what a gift to be invited into that
Yeah.
space, right? That's a sacred moment, really. And that's
Without
what we do all
question.
the time as we visit our partners.
Mhm.
We never just show up. We never just say, we're coming to do our thing. Like, we are always invited, and we go with the posture of a learner, and we go humbly. Just recognizing that it really is an honor to be in those spaces, and the way that God meets us, as He shows up in the poor and in us as we love together.
Mhm. Well, you've touched on so much of that in your reflections. So I'm going to encourage people to dive into what you've written for us on their own. And you can find that at Advent of Generosity. Advent of Generosity is at, I get this right, I'm looking right at it. It's cbmin.org/AOG. And you can check it out. John, I'm going to ask you if you just want to play a little bit of a sampler here of Louise's reflection.
I quickly finish up the dishes or laundry and make my way to the cocha, a new word for couch and sofa coined by my niece. And I find that Claire has set out blankets and pillows in preparation for our time together. As I flop down on the blankets, I refrain from asking her what I've asked so many times before. I used to ask her what she wanted to do, thinking she might want to read a story or play a game. But after being met with blank stares, I've learned that just being together is in fact the thing she wants to do.
Thanks, John, for running that. Well, Louise, I'm just going to ask you one more question. What's it going to look like this year? How are things looking for your Christmas family time this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this second wave has brought some new restrictions to the Halifax area, of course. And there's supposed to be an update on those either today or tomorrow. So I'll know a little bit more in the coming days. But my immediate family is all right here. And so we're really hoping that we're able to gather as it is right now. We should be able to, unless things change for the worse. But we are doing very well. Our numbers are going down, and it's looking promising. Hopefully, we all know that can change in a moment. But hoping just to be together with family. Often we have neighbors in, and lots of other traditions that involve lots of people. But it's going to be quieter this year for sure. But hoping to at least see my sister and her husband and my nieces. My sister has 2 girls as well. So the four little girls, the 4 granddaughters. Can't wait to play together. So it will be wild. They are 3, 4, 5, and 8. So it's a lot of excitement. So
you can send them over to your parents' place and they can play with the nativity scene.
Absolutely. They will be having a lot of outdoor time for sure.
Well, I'm just going to say hi to a couple of people. Estella, you're here with us again.
Super fan.
long suffering, maybe. I don't know. But thank you, Stella, for tuning in. And Randy, our fellow colleague, said we never know when the sacred moments will happen. So indeed. Thank you for reminding me of that, Louise. And
thanks for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for these reflections and the effort you put in to these. I hope people will sign up. There'll be one more week next week. We are still going to have the Christ candle, the candle of light, which we usually do on Christmas Eve, but we're going to squeeze it in next Tuesday. And Brenda will be here. Brenda has written the last reflection of this set. So please tune in next Tuesday when I'll be talking to Brenda about the candle of light and her reflection and artwork choices. Louise, I wish you a Merry Christmas.
And to you, Gordon, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thanks for this time. And again, thanks for the reflection. And thank you all for being here. Bye for now.